Do you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, mom, and wife with a strong faith. And for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much of my time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you're ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hi there. Welcome back to Becoming Natural podcast with Penny Sampler. This is episode 6, How Ancient Roots Are Advancing Modern Health, the fascinating world of hemp benefits. Last episode, I went into the amazing details of essential oils and how uncliche they really are. While the term essential oils may seem overused, I set out to determine if they worked so well for me, how and why they worked. It was a great dive into the teensy world of terpenes, which make up the tiniest molecules of an essential oil, and how they give plants their color and scent properties. And even more fascinating was the role that terpenes play in healing our bodies by cleaning any of our receptors that might be blocked and removing the broken cells that are replicating bad information. Who knew? The level of complexity on such a microscopic level can only be attributed to divine intervention. Please jump back to episode 5 to actually take a listen before we get into the amazing history of hemp and CBD oil today. CBD is actually the essential oil of the hemp plant. My vision for becoming natural is to sprinkle in bits and pieces of my story as I go versus painfully reciting a very long and difficult journey for anyone who loved me. I learned so much about health that I didn't learn from a textbook as I became a student of my own body over the course of 25 plus years of illness. I fully believe that every pain that led to trying new solutions, every job that introduced me to new knowledge and people, moving to new cities to be closer to better medical care and treasured friendships, every step that I took was for a reason. As a believer, I know that God put me in specific places and times for specific reasons. Nothing was accidental. Hindsight is such a gift to see how the Lord was weaving together every experience for my ultimate healing, my faith journey, personal growth, and truly for my life's purpose and testimony. I ultimately had somewhere between 80 to 90% of my stomach removed, secondary to massive amounts of ulceration and disease from Crohn's disease. It was a surgery I had feared and put off for several years, but eventually became our last option when my attempts with medication failed over and again and left me with more side effects than help. I was finally to the point of desperation, and in so much pain, I was completely willing to offer up my stomach for the taking. That doesn't mean I wasn't afraid of the unknown and what it looked like on the other side of surgery, but nothing anyone could do for me made my pain manageable. I was ready. After yet another failed endoscopy by my GI doctor in the Woodlands, he so compassionately sat by my bed at the endoscopy center and told me he didn't know what to do next. As I woke up from sedation, I heard the nurses discussing my case while they pushed my bed to recovery. I heard failed, potential aspiration risk. I knew exactly what they meant, and I just remember tears starting to flow down my temples. While I shouldn't have been shocked, I was shocked. I started my prep for the endoscopy 2 days earlier than most in an attempt to be sure my inflamed and slow-moving stomach would be clear for this endoscopy. I went to clear liquids, did all super special tricks that I've always done to get my stomach empty that most normal people don't have to do. I felt really good about it. I thought I was going to get a good report. Unfortunately, nothing I did worked, and despite my best efforts, my stomach was still completely full of food. I had reached the point that a surgical solution was the only step forward. My GI in the Woodlands referred me to Dr. Urtan, the namesake for Urtan Digestive Disease Center of the University of Texas Medical School in Houston. Crohn's was becoming significantly more common than when I was first diagnosed, but I was still outnumbered in every gastroenterology waiting room by the 70-plus crowd and AARP magazines on the end tables. This one was no different. The massive waiting room at UT was a bit stale, very cold and uncomfortable, full of patients waiting that completely fit the exact avatar of the AARP magazines. As soon as I met Dr. Ertan, though, everything changed. He was very kind, incredibly concerned about me, and had already spoken to my GI in the Woodlands. Over the course of several visits in a week for scopes, and surprise, another failed scope due to aspiration risk, he recommended removing my stomach. He immediately read my face and in his thick Turkish accent said, "You are my girlfriend. Do not worry. This is complicated. We do complicated here. Do not worry." I'm not very good at accents. But after that, memories are a bit blurry. I was reeling, but he said there was only one doctor he would recommend for my surgery in all of Houston. Being in the mecca of medical centers in the United States and with his name on the huge wall of the huge waiting room of a huge medical school, I had faith in his recommendation. We proceeded to plan for my surgery and orchestrate schedules and all the hoops we had to jump through with grandparents and kid activities. I may have been ready for the pain to stop, but I was quite nervous about what my life looked like on the other side of removing my stomach. I will gladly go to many details about the months that followed in future episodes, but for today's purposes, it simply resulted in 8 more abdominal surgeries and 8 more surgeries worth of scar tissue that caused large amounts of a new kind of pain. Pain not from a diseased stomach, but from a large amount of scar tissue in my abdominal area. I had so much scar tissue that I could not stand up straight. The awkward tightness in my abs pulled me forward and began to cause lower back pain. Breaking up that scar tissue was necessary but painful. Each pop or pull or stretch hurt. But it was a good hurt, a necessary hurt, but a hurt that needed medicine for the pain. As I intentionally tried to break up the scar tissue with exercise, stretching, playing tennis, the pain continued to get worse. After taking every pain med known to man in the hospital and upon my release, I had tapered down, but to one minor opiate. If you look it up online, it says it has a different mechanism of action and is considered to have a lower risk of dependence compared to stronger opioids. That's what I was told. But dependent I became. For the record, I do believe there's a difference between dependent and addicted. I was not addicted, but I was dependent. Without it, I had pain. I wasn't desperate to have it or looking for something to make me feel good, but I was not comfortable without it, and my need to increase my dose to cover the pain was increasing as well. I knew I needed to get off of it. I was not, quote, allowed to take ibuprofen with an ulcerating stomach disease. A little funny if you think about it, since most of my stomach was gone, but still, no ibuprofen. As far as I knew, this was my only option. I was concerned enough that I called a pain clinic. They told me that the pain clinic was not to get me off my pain meds, but to manage my pain meds. I was so confused. What? I thought you went to a pain clinic when in pain and the long-term goal was to get off the pain medication. I hung up defeated. But God, yet again, He was preparing me for something new. Right about this time, I was introduced to CBD. This was in April of 2019, and the Farm Bill had just been signed in December of 2018. So few people knew what CBD was or wasn't, including myself. But I was ripe. I wanted pain relief, and I wanted off my minor opiate. And it seemed the medical system didn't know how to do that for me. My first response to CBD was, I don't smoke pot, nor have I ever, and I don't do anything illegal. I was assured it was none of those things, and given my readiness, I ordered it, and then I dug into researching while I waited for it to appear on my doorstep. While I already had a limited base knowledge of essential oils and a desire to treat my body more holistically, my passion and conviction was cemented when that little bottle of oil changed my life. Once I received my package, I took drops under my tongue twice a day, and I used a topical pain cream as often as I needed during the day, while I decreased my use of opiates every single day. By day 5-ish, I was forgetting to put the pain cream on my abs because I was not in pain, and I was healing from the inside out. By about a week, I had completely weaned off those opiates, and while I was only taking CBD under my tongue twice a day. Not only was I amazed that I was without pain and able to do it with this oil, but I had 0 withdrawals. Anytime I tried to stop taking the opiates before, I would feel fluish, achy, and miserable. And I'm not proud to say that in the midst of a remodel in a new city with 3 kids, it was just easier to take the pill and get through the day versus taking a few days to ultimately detox from the pain meds. Not once did I have any of those detox symptoms as I weaned off the opiates and onto CBD oil. It was a miracle to me and my family and anyone who knew what I had been through. With CBD being relatively new legally, about 4 months at this time, I started telling anyone who would listen what it did for me. I knew people who could use it themselves. Of course, my researching its history became an enormous rabbit hole, and I felt like I had to share it with many people like me, whose doctors had no more answers for them. I crack up as I would read and study, and then I would go live on Facebook for 5 to 10 minutes to explain what I learned that day. I had no idea how to do a live, and I often went live and deleted it at least 5 times in a row. I sucked. I had no idea people were actually listening to me, but friends near and far, friends of friends, and friends I hadn't talked to in years were reaching out to me to ask questions. So many people were curious, and mainly people were laughing because anyone who knew me knew I didn't drink or smoke or do anything nefarious at all. I'm a total church girl, so how in the world was Penny taking CBD? I never set out to sell anything, but all these people wanted to buy what I was taking, so I just directed them to what I was taking, and before I knew it, I was promoting CBD. I called my mom to tell her. Always a good mom that listened to my wild-haired ideas. She said, "What now?" And I said, "Mom, I think I'm selling CBD." All of a sudden, her half focus to what I was saying became full attention, and in her West Texas accent, she said, "Oh my gosh, my daughter is selling pot." I tried to talk her down a little, but she just said she had bought everything I had ever told her about in the past, but this was one thing she was not going to buy. So I ended up just sending her some information about my specific CBD that was legal, clean, safe, and incredibly therapeutic, and how it would really help her achy joints. Less than 24 hours later, she called back, "Penny, I need some of this. How can I get it? How quickly will I get it?" And so she became a fan as well. Circling back around to what an essential oil is from last week, CBD oil is the essential oil of the hemp plant, the essence of the plant that gives the plant so many protective benefits and therapeutic properties. Oil with teeny tiny molecules with terpenes that get inside every single cell in our bodies, including the cells that pass the blood-brain barrier. The biggest reason CBD is legal today, federally legal, is less than 0.3% THC concentration. It's because of a little girl named Charlotte Figge in Colorado. She was having 300 seizures a week due to Dravet syndrome. Her parents discovered after trying so many drugs and therapies that CBD oil allowed her seizures to slow to only a couple seizures a month. They fought very hard for the legalization of CBD. See my show notes to hear her story. If you remember from last week, CBD worked for her because it passes the blood-brain barrier to affect the neurological diseases in our brains. Hemp has many amazing uses, including products in construction, rope, textiles, body products, paper, plastics. The uses of hemp extend well beyond the medicinal world. In the 1700s, the British required farmers to grow hemp to be used in sailing vessels for line and sails. They were allowed to pay their taxes with hemp. In 1916, the USDA published findings that hemp produces 4 times more paper per acre than trees did. On top of that, it takes 4 months for the hemp plant to mature versus 20 to 80 years of trees to mature enough for paper production. Henry Ford even made a car out of hemp. They say it was stronger than steel and ran on ethanol made from hemp and other agricultural waste. Hemp is an amazing plant well beyond its medicinal value. One of the most significant benefits of hemp is its bioplastic biodegradability. Unlike traditional plastic, which takes centuries to decompose, plastic made from hemp can biodegrade within 6 months to a year, depending upon environmental conditions. Did you catch that? No landfills full of petroleum-based plastics. That's unbelievable. Again, see the show notes for that resource. As for therapeutic benefits, we have recorded history back to 2700 BC that the Chinese were using cannabis for healing. Egyptians used it for glaucoma, inflammation, and enemas. Greeks and Romans for earaches, edema, and inflammation. In 1840, Queen Victoria used it for menstrual cramps. By then, it was being used to help with sleep, pain, and healing. In 1850, cannabis was added to the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, which the U.S. Pharmacopoeia is basically the encyclopedia that doctors use for drugs. So from at least 2700 BC to 1937, approximately 4,700 years, cannabis was a known and accepted form of healing for many reasons and for a wide variety of people. Before the advent of modern chemistry, almost all of our medicines came from medicinal herbs. And while in today's world, most of us tend to think of gardens as solely places to grow roses or pretty flowers, originally, gardens began as a place to grow medicinal herbs and spice plants. So what the heck happened? During the 20th century, there was a significant campaign of misinformation linking hemp to harmful effects of marijuana as a drug, leading to a public fear and associating the plant with drug use. Reefer Madness, remember that movie? It scared people to death about marijuana turning people into crazy people. Marijuana started being used as an association to Hispanic witchcraft culture to scare more people out of using even industrialized hemp for textile use. Also, the timber and paper industries, which saw hemp as a potential competitor, played a role in pushing for hemp's criminalization. Hemp made the paper stronger, and it lasts centuries longer than wood paper. Hemp paper does not yellow, crack, or otherwise deteriorate as tree paper does. However, William Randolph Hearst supported the criminalization of marijuana because Hearst's paper-producing companies, which supplied paper for many newspapers nationwide, were being replaced by hemp. Likewise, DuPont's investment in nylon was threatened by hemp, the product, as well. In 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act effectively banned the cultivation of all cannabis plants, including industrial hemp, by requiring heavy taxation and strict regulations that made it nearly impossible to legally grow hemp. Important to note that the American Medical Association strongly opposed this legislation. Even the doctors knew that it worked. But by 1941, it was eliminated from the pharmacopoeia. It was no longer in the Encyclopedia of Drugs. The Controlled Substances Act of 1970 further solidified the legal status of hemp as a Schedule I drug, meaning it has a high potential for abuse and no currently accepted medical use, despite its distinct characteristics from high THC marijuana. They classified it as having 0 accepted medical use after all those years of using it medicinally. So clearly, there was a very complicated history that boiled down to being highly influenced by greed and power. I am also very well aware that CBD has many tongue-in-cheek opinions. Number 1, it doesn't work. Number 2, you can get it on every single street corner. Number 3, I don't believe it works. Or number 4, I still think it's illegal. There's lots of opinions. I thought all of the above myself, so I started digging. I first wanted to understand the history of why it was accepted, then not accepted and demonized. After that, I really wanted to know how and why it worked so effectively with my own pain issues. So what's the difference between marijuana and hemp? Marijuana and hemp are 2 different subspecies. So CBD is a compound found in ranging concentrations of the hemp plant. It has no psychoactive properties. Under the cannabis umbrella, imagine that hemp is on one side, marijuana is on the other. Hemp on this side is high in CBD but low in THC. Marijuana is on the other side of the umbrella, which is high in THC and low in CBD. This is a critical point when hearing people discuss CBD oil, because you can have CBD oil from a marijuana plant, which is illegal, or CBD oil from a hemp plant, which is legal, if the THC content is less than 0.3%. THC is the psychoactive ingredient that makes you feel something. Many people will say, I take the good stuff, when in reality, low THC content to a higher CBD ratio is actually the most therapeutic and beneficial. CBD is what makes it therapeutic, but many growers have genetically modified the plant to be high in THC for recreational use. What was made federally legal by the Farm Bill in 2018 is the use of hemp with up to 0.3% of THC for clinical benefits. Such a tiny amount that has 0 psychoactive effect, but when that tiny amount is combined with CBD, we call it the entourage effect, or an explosion of benefits. Dr. Raphael Mechoulam at Hebrew University is known as the godfather of cannabis research. He's best known for his work in the isolation of THC, or the main active piece of the cannabis plant, because he knew that the body didn't create new receptors out of nowhere, and he knew that we had physical benefits from THC in our body. He was determined to find the receptors for THC in our bodies. He was then further successful and the isolation and identification of the endocannabinoids anandamide, which is THC that's made inside our body, from the brain, and 2-AG, which is CBD, both made and produced by our bodies. Did you know that we produce cannabinoids in our bodies? We do. Women produce cannabinoids in their breast milk when they're nursing, and that endorphin feeling when we're running, and that feel-good molecule that's called the bliss molecule, those are actually cannabinoids that we produce in our bodies. If our bodies produce identical molecules to THC and CBD, how in the world can they be illegal? Dr. McAlam's work isolating these molecules led to the discovery of the endocannabinoid system, ECS for short, in the late 90s. The ECS is an entire receptor system in our body called the endocannabinoid system and the largest receptor system in our body. Think bigger than the nervous system, which is enormous. It operates like a lock and key, and the CBD, THC compounds found in the hemp plant fit perfectly into the receptor sites to provide therapeutic benefits to our bodies. If you were to see a picture of the plant molecules of CBD and THC next to the molecules that we produce in our brains called 2-AG and anandamide, they are the mirror image of the others. To clarify, endocannabinoids are made by our bodies. Phytocannabinoids are made by plants, and both of them fit perfectly into the receptors of our endocannabinoid system. So why all the hubbub about THC, CBD, ECS? What does that mean to you? Cutting-edge science has shown that the endocannabinoid system is flawed in almost all pathological conditions, so it stands to reason that modulating endocannabinoid system activity may have therapeutic potential in almost all diseases affecting humans. That's a quote taken from the U.S. National Institutes of Health publication. See the notes for that link. Essentially, CBD, which is naturally produced in our bodies, heals the body by entering those receptor sites in the ECS and providing balance or homeostasis. By modulating the endocannabinoid system, CBD and THC can slow, or in some cases stop, disease progression. This is clinically amazing. It is no longer a matter of debating whether or not cannabis works. The challenge is discerning how to use cannabis for maximum therapeutic benefit. One of the most significant additions to my daily routine was a clean, safe, USDA organic, high-quality CBD oil. Please know, not all CBD is the same. This family-owned company in North Carolina changed my life, allowing me to get off opiates and live life without pain from surgeries, creaky joints after workouts, or gardening. It's a mind-blowing natural step to decrease discomfort, improve mood, help with sleep, prevent or slow future age-related annoyances, and many other benefits. You can check out my website at pennysampler.com, which includes $10 off your first order. To be clear, having Crohn's, I've never smoked, I don't drink alcohol, or ever been high. This is a reputable option that I'm incredibly passionate about sharing. If you would like personal assistance with selecting the products, please fill out the simple health assessment quiz in the show notes, and I will be in touch with you as soon as possible. One of the leading doctors in cannabis research said, the use of CBD oil is going to save more lives than the invention of the sterile surgical technique. Think about that. We know that inflammation is the root of most disease. If we can eliminate or reduce inflammation and therefore stop the progression of the disease, we can eliminate surgeries, like mine when I got septic. I've had 13 abdominal surgeries because of an inflammatory bowel disease. If I had known when I was 16 about the benefits of CBD provided to inflammation, I am fully convinced I would not only have not had the many surgeries I had, but also not led to my becoming septic from one of those surgeries. With hemp having thousands of years of use and awareness of it being criminalized to remove it from the table so other industries could profit, and now a modern-day understanding of the chemistry of how it works, why do most doctors still not understand the value of using it? To start, it's due in part to inconsistent FDA regulation, the engineered social taboos, and the continued political policy of classifying cannabis as a Schedule I drug. In 2017, the deaths related to opiates skyrocketed to over 50,000, and I am sure have climbed since. Synthetic opiates, heroin, cocaine, benzodiazepines, each alone accounted for over 10,000 deaths each, yet not a single death is attributed to the use of cannabis. not a single death. Cannabis is the safest form of pain medicine you can take. It works, and it's not addictive, and it will not kill you. Do you know why it won't kill you? There's a portion of the brain that's responsible for the heart beating and the lungs breathing, and it has no receptors for the endocannabinoid system. This is very important to understand. Opiates kill people because they slow their heart and their lungs to where they simply just stop breathing and their heart stops beating. It's kind of like palliative care, increase opiates to force this process. However, because the endocannabinoid system did not have any receptors in that portion of the brain, no matter how much cannabis you take, you will never stop breathing and your heart will never stop beating. How amazing is the way God created our brain? If you take too much CBD, you may get a headache or diarrhea or get tired or even be really alert, but it will not kill you like all the synthetically derived pain medicines. In general, the understanding of CBD, cannabis, and the endocannabinoid system is lacking within the medical community because there is a complete lack of medical cannabis training in medical schools. Only 13% of medical schools have medical marijuana documented in the curriculum. Because of that, 85% of physicians feel that they're not prepared to recommend cannabinoids, and 65% do not feel prepared to answer questions about cannabis or CBD. That's completely understandable if you're not trained in it. When I first started to truly understand CBD and all the cannabinoids in the hemp plant, I laughed at all the strip mall stores with CBD in their name. CBD is one of over 100 different cannabinoids found in the plant. CBD and THC are just the most studied ones. Their names are already completely outdated, in my humble opinion. We know that CBN is good for sleep and CBG is good for pain. CBD is not anywhere close to the only beneficial cannabinoid. As studies come out regularly, we are learning more and more about the power of the hemp plant for our bodies, that many of us are deficient in the endocannabinoids that our bodies make, so we should be taking CBD on a daily basis, just like we take vitamins. Taking CBD oil should not only be used for targeted issues such as creaky joints or sleep issues. CBD should be used for long-term health and wellness simply by preventing inflammation of any kind. Think about preventing the inflammation before it ever occurs, how healthy we could be. It's important to note that any kind of CBD is sitting in the middle of the Wild West. It is an unregulated industry, and you have no idea what you're getting. There have been studies to show that up to 70% of bottles are mislabeled with either too much, too little, or no CBD at all. See the show notes for the Penn study on that one. It's vital to know how to find a reputable brand and product. For so many people, everything in this episode is brand new and hopefully eye-opening information that increases your comfort with the use of CBD. It's a whole lot of new information to digest. For me, I started learning about essential oils alone at least 15 years ago, and 5 years ago, CBD entered my life. And the more that I learn, the more exciting the world of plants, not just as medicine, but plants as wellness becomes. Consider this as we put synthetic things on, in, and around our bodies. Plastics, chemicals, ingredients that are nowhere close to natural are not meant to be in our body or absorbed by our body. Our livers do an amazing and miraculous job of processing out toxins, but they cannot keep up with all the unnatural things we continue to introduce to our body. It really makes you stop and think. Why are we one of the most advanced countries on the earth, yet one of the most sick societies that exists? Next episode, we will pick up right here, moving forward with learning how to know the CBD product you have is what the label says it is when no one is regulating the industry for you. My favorite thing to do is to read labels and investigate CBD brands. It's been shocking to see what is actually in some bottles, even more eye-opening to watch as certain brands manipulate their ingredient list over time. One of my favorite stories is a dear friend who swore up and down that CBD had changed her life. I loved hearing it, and as a constant learner, I always ask to see pictures of the bottle and the ingredient list. When I read the ingredients, it was olive oil. Only olive oil. The name on the label was CBD, but there was no CBD in her product at all. And most people don't know to look at that stuff. I wouldn't. Next week, I hope to show you how to read your labels, how to know what you're getting is a good product, and even if it is a wonderful product, how to dose a wonderful product properly. If you don't have the proper dosing, CBD won't work at all. Thank you so much for sticking with this fascinating history of hemp, CBD, and all its many uses. The hemp plant is truly an amazing plant with so many value attributes for human use. If you think this was interesting, just wait until next week. Even Russia comes into play, so don't miss it. Catch you next week for part 2 and another episode of Becoming Natural. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take 30 seconds to leave a review and share it with a friend? It helps me help someone else, and reviews are the best way to do that. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll meet you back here for another episode next week.